Welkom bij Univibes. Voel jij dat het tijd is om dichter bij jezelf te komen? Onze Univibes app is nu live. Met de beste meditaties, live sessies van geweldige teachers, cursussen, masterclasses en je kunt je gaan verbinden met duizenden gelijkgestemden. Ga daarvoor naar onze website www.univibes.nl of download gratis onze Univibes app en probeer de app 7 dagen lang gratis uit. Kijk Vibestalk bijvoorbeeld zonder reclame en kijk Vibestalk Extra. En dan bouwen we samen met jou aan een prachtig mooi mediaplatform om bewustzijn te kunnen gaan verspreiden. En hopelijk word je member, zodat wij dit soort gesprekken kunnen blijven maken met een geweldig team van mensen. Want we kunnen dit alleen maar samen doen met jou. Maar probeer hem nu gratis uit. Dus ga naar onze website of download de app gratis in de App Store. Dankjewel.
To a perspective that would sound more like what I just said. Like I would expect it to just kind of be like, here's some tools, here's what you can do with it. You can either figure it out or you can't. I actually didn't expect that it would involve the evolution of humans as part of the story. That was not clear to me at all. And I'm now convinced of this without a doubt.
How does it affect you in your daily life?
Funny enough, it connected me more to the simple things.
Yeah.
Because when you start seeing the scale of what's going on, then all of a sudden appreciating your little corner of the universe becomes a lot more, seems a lot more important. But like it's true, like if you can't enjoy that, and by the way, when you can enjoy that, then all of a sudden all the more crazy things become also more fun. Because now you know that you can actually be present with these things in a way that you couldn't before. So the emphasis on the present moment became much more salient to me.
Welcome to Vibestalk Extra. Today I'm speaking with a man who has gained international attention for his experiments combining smoking the psychedelic drug DMT with coherent laser light. Participants report seeing structured visual patterns, sometimes described as a code, that appear consistent across observers. His work raises questions about perception, consciousness, and the nature of reality. So Danny, welcome to the show. I'm so super happy that you're here today. I'm actually honored to talk to you because I know how busy you are. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Mirjam.
Yeah, for sure. Danny, would it be possible for you to just to tell us in your own words, to introduce you a little bit to our Dutch community, to our viewers, who you are, what you've been busy with the last couple years, I think it was, right?
Yeah, it's been a little longer than that, but yeah, it's the last iteration is, I think, about a year or two, yeah.
Okay, well, and also, you know, because from there I would love to explore with you what it actually is that you're doing, because it's something amazing and I want to know everything about it.
Well, thank you so much for this very kind introduction. I am the guy who became known for claiming that he discovered that you can see code in the wall if you project a laser while you happen to be on DMT. And obviously, just on the face of it, it sounds like a very outlandish and crazy claim, especially because the most psychedelic drug known to man is involved.
Yeah.
But the details of the story are the interesting ones. And that's basically just kind of like the generality of what I became known for. Yeah. But now it evolved into a full-fledged science project. We have a nonprofit called Code of Reality where we have scientists on board. We're now in the first steps of looking for a facility to actually create a little research center. So things are moving, and we're basically developing, well, not a field of study, of course, but we're calling what we're doing cognitive physics, which simply denotes the fact that we are interested in investigating reality through the lens that does not ignore the observer, which is very challenging, but we do believe that there are methods that can be developed that can allow us to do that, and we can't understand the world unless we understand what is the thing that is looking at the world. So that will be a very short summation of who I am and what I do.
Okay, and now let's dive into it, sure. Because otherwise nobody will understand what that means. So what happened? I mean, so it's been a few years. It's been a couple of years, or how long has it?
No, I have been speaking about this for about 5 years. So maybe
about
4 plus. Yeah, no, but a lot of it was a lot less known. So yeah, it was kind of like this little niche subcultural thing that only a few people knew about, you know, in subreddits and things like this. And then eventually, when enough of the bigger names picked up on the news, Aaron Venden, who's the director of the film we're shooting about this project, I always have to, give him a shout out because he's an incredible master of his craft. He created this now pretty viral trailer. And when a lot of people saw that trailer, Chase Hughes and Danny Jones, and I just been on the Jack Neal podcast. So more and more known people, kind of Joe Rogan commented about it. All of a sudden
everywhere.
It became like a much more
suddenly.
Yeah. And so it's only recently that it kind of really well, I don't know if it really blew out yet, but like it definitely blowing up slowly. When you get a lot of attention, and I'm happy it's only happening now, you better have something of value to say. And I think for a long time it wasn't really clear what that was, but now it's clear to us where we're going and why we think we're going there. And so I think it happened exactly on time. And just not to leave people too confused, really the central claim that I was making when I came out with my first videos is that I have proof that we live in a simulation. Straight up like in the Matrix. Yeah. Not in the same way like we're not in prison, but basically the simulation hypothesis, which means that we live in a computational world. I'm claiming that I found at least one way of probing this proposition experimentally versus just philosophically. As you, I'm sure, know, there's this really famous white paper by Nick Bostrom that came out, I think at this point, almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
Which is where all of these modern ideas about the simulation theory came from. So basically, there's only 3 assumptions you have to make. 1, computation is possible, and therefore you know that simulating things is possible. 2, you see that it's always evolving. Some people always add the Moore's law into the picture. The Moore's law actually doesn't matter whatsoever. It doesn't matter how fast it's happening. The fact that it will keep happening is really the only data point you need to take on board. Okay. And the last one, the question you have to ask yourself, if you assume that it's going to keep growing in how convincing these simulations are, games and things like this, is there going to come a point, where it's just going to become indistinguishable from the real world? And then the final question you ask to kind of make the argument is, what are the chances that we're the first one to do it? And of course, the chances of that are basically 0. If it's possible, then probably other civilizations already done it a long time ago. And because the assumption is that there's only one base reality and there's many, many simulations, then the chances we live in base reality, they're basically 0. That's how the argument goes. That's the same one that Elon Musk reiterates. So there's a lot of theoretical frameworks around this, including from physics, by the way. Wheeler famously coined the term it from bit. It's not a new idea. So very smart people entertained this idea that computation is fundamental. But what I'm claiming, and the thing that also, I guess the same reason that it became more known and the same reason that it also bothers a lot of scientists is because I'm claiming there's a way to probe this proposition. So that to give you a little bit more depth to the audience that might be confused about what the hell is it that I'm even talking about.
What are we even talking about? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, please tell me how this started, because what we're talking about is that you started smoking DMT. What I know about DMT, I've never done it before. I know my husband has once, and he told me it's really horrible to do it. It's really hard to do it. You have to keep it in, and it's almost impossible to do it. So I wonder, how did you start smoking DMT?
So the first thing is, DMT stands for dimethyltryptamine.
Yes.
It's a neuromodulator.
Yeah.
Our body makes it. It's in a lot of living things. In fact, there's a lot of reasons to think it might be in all living things. We don't know this for sure, of course, but it might be the case. It's interesting because our lungs make it, portions of the brain, our liver, and we have, our brain kind of specializes in breaking it down. That's why it's very fast acting when smoked externally. However, we don't really know what it's doing in the body. Well, that's interesting because there's not a lot of substances that we consume as, recreationally that our body also makes. By the way, in the exact same formulation, so it's not even different in any way. Both NN-DMT and 5-MeO-DMT, which are 2 different forms of DMT, we can talk about this later, our body makes both of them. Okay. And if you smoke enough of this thing, we'll talk about the particulars of the smoking in a moment, but if you smoke enough of it, it produces an effect that can be described as the exact opposite of anything you've ever experienced in terms of consumption of substances. So when you drink alcohol, which most people are familiar with, there's a lot of effects that can happen, but the first things that can happen, it kind of removes inhibition, right? And it feels like you become a little more glazed. Like there's almost like a veil, right? You're a little bit more murky. Something is removed from your perception, obviously. And which is probably also why you get a little bit more relaxed, is because you're not aware of as much, right? Same with weed. It just kind of feels like you feel you're high, basically, right?
Yeah.
With DMT, it feels the opposite of that. So in comparison, the second you smoke it, it kind of feels like you were high now. Like you become less high. Yes.
No.
So you don't feel, yes, that's why it stands out so much and why it's such of interest to a lot of people. A, the fact that you're carrying it, so your body makes it all the time. And B, if you smoke more of it, you become more aware. And I do mean this. So, and if you ask, well, how do you know? I mean, come on, you consume the psychedelic drug. How do you know anything? Well, just like you know anything. For example, if you wake up from a dream, and it was a very realistic dream, let's say, but dreams still have a quality, right? They're more kind of murky and they're cloudy.
Yeah.
Or most dreams, at least.
Yeah.
And then you wake up to real life and you go, oh, right. And then you remember, right?
Yeah.
Well, how do you know? What do you mean? Like, how do you know that this was real? This was a dream, and now, well, there are parameters your brain is using to determine this.
Yes.
Edge detection is one of them. Things are sharper in real life. In dreams, they're not. Things are more continuous over time. There's all these things we never think about because we don't need to, but there are parameters your brain is using to discern this. So, in the exact same way, imagine all of these parameters go higher. Edge detection becomes even more. Everything becomes super crisp and HD. Things feel more continuous over time. They feel more real. They feel more of what they really are. And that's a very confounding experience because you did not expect that. You did not expect that your brain could do this.
Can I ask you one
go ahead.
little thing about this? Because I had an interview with, over the summer, I had an interview with Darius J. Wright. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I've heard of him, yes.
He was taken out of the construct because he's been out traveling out of body. That was his thing. And he said that, because it actually what you're saying, it feels a little the same, although it's totally different, of course. But he said, when I was out of the body, I was exposed to 100% of the light spectrum, where, in your body, you're actually exposed to only 5% of the light spectrum. So we feel and we see way more the moment we're out of our body, because this light spectrum is way broader. Would you say that maybe is the case when you use DMT, that you're just exposed to far bigger reality?
Yes, to that statement. So I definitely feel like you're aware of more of what's possible to know. Yeah. But within the framework of what we're doing, we're trying to stay as close. Actually, it sounds funny because considering what I'm proposing, people don't expect us to try and stay close to the scientific rigor, but we're doing our best.
Yeah.
I don't know about the whole light spectrum thing. So like I'm not saying it isn't. I just don't know. I don't know how people know these numbers. Like when they go into higher dimension, I don't know how they know to discern between 4D, 5D, no. Light. Like how do you know it's 100% of the light? How do you, I don't know how they know these things.
Yeah. No.
However, that being said, I'm not saying it isn't. He might have an ability to do so. I'm just saying from my perspective, I don't know how people can possibly know that. It does feel more of something for sure. In that regard, I would agree with him that you are just exposed to more what's possible to perceive. Okay. And because I've never experienced out-of-body experience or astral projection myself, but I have friends who have done it, and we're talking about serious people, not that I absolutely trust their opinion. Well, there's a difference. I mean, and I don't shy away from telling people directly, like if you can have the most beautiful energy in the world, and I would love to hang out with you, but if you just the kind of person who just accepts any proposition your whole life, I don't know if I can necessarily trust your judgment about X or Y, right? Mm-hmm. But if people who tend to be extremely rigorous, very successful, very methodical, and they manage to do it, I tend to trust their words on this more. And so I have no reason to doubt that that's a real ability that people have. And I can't really say if the qualities are the same, what they are on DMT and what they are but I would assume they at least has to be some Venn diagram where they overlap, for sure. Because if the information is real, okay, well then it's not just subjective. There must be something kind of quality to it that we'll all come in contact with. So in that regard, I would agree with Darius. And I've heard from other people a lot of wonderful things about him. I don't know him personally, but I've heard that he taught a lot of people how to do this. Mm-hmm. And he also watched him talk, and he seems like a a very powerful, advanced, and a positive human. So
Yeah, for sure. No, he is absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and I understand what you're saying, and it's really nice to see how you approach this from a scientific side. But so you said that DMT is made in your body, but it's not clear what it actually does.
there's some ideas floating around about DMT potentially being the thing that renders experience itself.
Yeah.
Is it true? I don't know. It sounds neat. I don't know if it's true, but it sounds like it. I mean, you smoke more of it and you're aware of more things. So maybe it's at least correlated. You know, maybe it's some kind of a key that opens a function in the brain. I would say that it would be probably closer to what it might be.
Yeah, that's
some people think that it was dubbed the spirit molecule because people kind of assumed that DMT, your body pumps a bunch of DMT right before you transition.
Yeah.
And also when you're born. Now, the truth is that we have no idea, again, because we never really measured it during the transition for anyone. But there is actually one study by Dr. John Dean from 2019, people can look it up, that he did with rats that are quite similar to our metabolic regime. So what he discovered is that there's the right amounts of the precursor that signifies the presence of DMT in the future, so to speak. So the simple way in waking hours. So the simple way of saying it is that he discovered that there's good reasons to believe that at least in rats,
Yeah.
there's comparable amounts of DMT in the intracranial fluid during waking hours to dopamine and serotonin. And dopamine and serotonin is very common neurotransmitters that we have abundance of because they're responsible for vicissitude of moods and a lot of other functions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we used to think that there's like trace amounts of DMT in the system. So we never tested it in humans. But if the same is true of humans, that would mean that we don't have trace amounts. We have substantial amounts of DMT in our system during waking hours. So it kind of maybe flies in the face of this whole, it's just for life or death. To me, it signifies more along the lines of experience itself. It's almost like it's rendering the qualia that you're perceiving or opens the door for you to be able to do that.
Yeah. Wow, that is so interesting. And what was the reason that you started smoking DMT? Is it because you wanted to, I don't know, what was the reason?
So I'm an interesting case. I was a pretty wild kid. I always loved experiencing things, and I was pretty extreme in a lot of ways. And I did acid when I was 11 for the first time. I really started doing psychedelics very early. So I'm not like a role model in that regard. But by the time I reached my 20s, I already had a very hefty experience with these things. Okay. And then I started using them in a more therapeutic way because I realized they cured a lot of issues that I've had psychologically and even, I would say, physically. Yeah. So then I became just a very committed psychonaut. Back then, there was no word for it, or maybe there was. We didn't know about it. Like I definitely never thought of myself as anything. But I was just doing a lot of psychedelics in my life, and I traveled very deep, very far, very often. So I kind of knew what was possible in that space. And when I discovered DMT, everything that people said about it delivered. It really was more than anything I could ever imagine.
So what happens when you smoke it? But what happens exactly?
Well, exactly, it's hard to say. There's not enough words in the English language. But everything I just described, which is that it's almost like it is an annoying way of doing this, but it is true. So like it's almost like I have to describe blue to you without you ever seeing blue.
No,
there's no point of reference there. It's
I understand, but I mean, because I know I've heard you speak about that you also saw like beings.
That was way later. Yeah, that was so. I'm describing. Yeah, the first time I've ever done it, I guess you can say he was a being, but it was not in the same way. It was kind of like I guess you can say, being, but he was more like a being that kind of belongs to a dream, but it was embedded in this very real place. Yeah. And in this particular case, it was somebody who was making a lot of concepts. The being was making concepts about snakes and dragons and things like this. Okay. But the realness of it is really what grabs you. And it really feels like you penetrating through some kind of a membrane into a real place. And after a few times of this, you go, okay, 1 second. Like, is this actually real? Like, is it just in my head? Because it's just too real. And your brain is not capable of doing this because, well, obviously it is rendering it somehow, but your impression is that your brain is not capable of doing it because it's not a reconstruction of anything, any quality you've ever seen before. So if you smoke weed or even do mushrooms, it's mostly a slight or even a pretty large departure from what you're seeing in front of you if your eyes are open. So if there's like a lot of red, it will kind of morph and become something else. But the scaffolding is what you're seeing. On DMT, if you smoke enough of it, forget about the fact that you're not here anymore. You're just out. The things you're seeing, you've never seen these qualities before. The building blocks out of which these experiences are made out of, so to speak, they don't resemble anything you've ever seen in your entire life. So it's like, where did that come from?
Reality is totally different. It looks
completely
totally
different. With more dimensions. I don't know how many, but like definitely you feel that there's more degrees of freedom into your perception.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is why DMT stands out so much, even among seasoned psychonauts, because it has this very weird quality of realness that nothing else does. And it's also why it's the subject of investigation of serious organizations, including DMTX, and there's a new project called Elysium or Elysius. Wow, man, I should probably not mispronounce it, but they're building an incredible, facility. Well, they already built it where they can do all of these tests, including intravenous DMT and all this stuff. There's also a program in Colorado run by Kevin and Haley, which are the people that we did the extended stay with. A lot of serious people are entering this space of investigation right now. Yeah. And when I had the experience that I tend to talk about online, that was already years after, trying DMT and knowing what it can do. And all of a sudden, now obviously to anybody who's listening who never done any of these things, what I'm about to say next won't even sound anything extra in particular because I'm already saying crazy things. But if you can imagine that there's a level beyond which, even for the person who already experienced a lot with this, still it got to this next level where it was just so real. I had an experience of a being appearing in front of me like a person. He looked not like a person. He looked like kind of like an amphibian hybrid between a frog and a lizard or something. But for all intents and purposes, he was standing in my room, almost as high as the ceiling, looking at me. And he was so tangible that I felt that if I would touch him, I would feel him. And that is a different level of experience. Like, imagine just like I'm talking to you right now. Mm-hmm. That's how real it was, only it's in my room, like standing in front of me. And
were you afraid or not?
Not at all, because there's a vibe. The vibe wasn't menacing at all. But also I like crazy. Like, show me the crazier, the better, right? Yeah. So I don't know if maybe it would have if I would have a different brain. But I could not believe what was happening. And at that point, I said, okay, well, first of all, there's no way this is in my head. There's just no way. Like, this is just way too much to assume. And also, he basically told me, well, he kind of pointed to the guitar in the room. And he said, go pick up the guitar. He wasn't speaking English, but he was like pointing, and I understood what he wanted. And then I went there, and he showed me with his frog fingers. He's like, do this, like this. And I started doing, like, try to follow what he was doing. And I strummed, and a chord, like something that made sense, happened. And I'm not a musician. I just had a guitar because I'm like practicing. And he goes another one, and it makes sense. And it makes sense also, it's a progression. I wish I would remember what it was. Everybody asking me, like, I don't recall. But he basically saying, okay, you don't know how to do this. I'm giving you information. Yeah. I'm real. You don't know this. So at that point, I knew that that's it. Everything basically changed in that instance for me. Yeah. Yeah. And then from there, that's when the thing that you mentioned started happening. I started basically smoking it every single day for over a year. And I lived on it. And I lived on it on purpose because it would be like a phone call. Like, these beings would come and they would like show me things and explain. And I would do everything with it because I was like, what else are we missing? We have to reinvestigate the world now on DMT. So then I don't recommend this, but I, went to the store, to the gym, drove on it. Like, I did everything on DMT just because I wanted to see. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to see, I see things on the streets, on like, what else do I see? And the funny thing is that actually didn't really advance any real investigation because it's almost like they either can't or they won't. They don't give you any concrete information. It's more like,
Why not?
I don't know. I
No.
don't know. But I knew that there's enough on the table for me to understand this is some kind of an orthogonal dimension. There's something is happening here. But every time I would ask them, hey, show me how to build a rocket, or something I can show other people, they weren't forthcoming. It would show me like esoteric things from their space, which makes perfect sense in the moment, but not in our world like it does. I can't show someone what they were showing me.
No.
So then eventually I said, okay, hey, that was fun, but I'll come visit, but like I'm definitely not going to be doing it every day anymore.
Yeah.
But then the thought of how do we prove that it's real stayed with me, embedded in me.
Yeah.
And then that took another like good 3 or 4 years where I started thinking about how we can potentially maybe show something. How would different dimensions how would communication be moving between the different dimensions, that kind of stuff. And eventually I landed on this idea that if you project a diffracted laser, which is simply any laser that you can do a bar scan in a supermarket, you project it on a surface and you smoke DMT, which by the way, now we know it works with psilocybin, it works with other tryptamines, it works with ayahuasca.
Could you explain what a diffracted lens is?
So diffracted just means, so this is like a laser like this. So like diffracted just means that it goes through a diffracted lens that splits it into these beams. So instead of being a laser pointer, it diffracts the light. Really, diffraction just means that the light is bouncing off some kind of an object. So the second that you project it on, even a laser pointer, when you project it on a wall, it diffracts at the surface and it also reflects, and it's basically the angle of the light.
Okay.
But with the diffracted lens, it's basically the lens is measured to match the exact measurements of the wavelength in such a way that it would spread it evenly in a very well distributed way, which is now diffracted light. It went through this extra step basically, and just like the double slit experiment. Only like a lot of slits, basically. That's what it is.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that so far as we noticed, laser pointers don't work. Even if you go really far and you make the point large, so like a circle, it doesn't work unless you diffract it, which is strange. But that's another data point that we're working.
Open or somehow or whatever.
We don't really know, but it might have to do with some quantum effect. We're not sure. This would require a much more serious investigation because it's the details would really tell us a lot.
But how? I mean, seriously, this whole concept, smoking DMT and using a laser. I mean, how did you put those two together? I mean, who thinks of that?
Over years and years. I mean, it was a long process.
Okay.
Which was accompanied by thinking and also kind of following intuition. But just really, it wasn't very different from any scientific thought process, aside from the fact that I was willing to look wider to kind of reach a conclusion. So like in science, you tend to look at a very tiny sliver of what's possible and you only change one parameter to see what happens, right?
Yeah.
In this case, I was kind of working with a very vast ideation. So one of the ideas was I kind of worked from first principles. So like I knew that because the subject matter is so esoteric and it's so kind of like out there that like, okay, what do you even ask? What are you really asking? So I said, okay, what am I asking? Well, here's what I'm asking. I'm asking if at that point I didn't know, but I said, okay, if the space is real, like real, not like metaphorically real.
No.
Well, that means it exists on its own side even when I'm not looking, right? It has its own reality. Great.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means it has some kind of rules by which it's working. Okay, so it has a geometry, even if it's not three-dimensional. You can describe geometries mathematically. It has a topology. It has a boundary, for sure, because sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't. These things I know for sure. So like if it's real, if it's not real, it's a separate story. But if it was real, then these things I just mentioned must be true. There is no reality that you can describe in which these 4 things are not true about it because of what we already know to be happening, right? So then I said, okay, what else do I know? I know that quantum computers are a real thing.
Yeah.
And I know that they utilize something called decoherence, and they control that property, which basically is, depending who you ask, but some of the physicists who, like David Deutsch, who wrote the Deutsch equations, which made computers possible, quantum computers possible, if you ask him, it would tell you, well, what quantum computers actually are doing, they're utilizing the fact that there are other real universes and they are also computing this, and we're literally distributing computation across the universes. So then I thought about this idea. I said, okay, well, if that's true and quantum computers work, then we know that there's this one moment of instantiation when there's decoherence of the particle, that there's one bit of information that is being at least transferred between the realities. So maybe that's how it's communicated, through some kind of a scattering of light or something like that. And the second I started thinking like this, all of a sudden things started happening that are wild. They're just like hints that would just appear in front of me in a way that there's, something would pop on my phone randomly and I'd be like, what? Like, and it's just like a paper to a physics thing. And I'm like, this is so crazy. Now, obviously, if you tell this to someone else, they'll be like, they'll think you're crazy, right? But I said, okay, well, I don't care. I'm just going to play this game. I want to see if this leads somewhere. So then I did that. For years, I tried to follow these little breadcrumbs that I thought I was identifying. And I was totally cool with it just being a delusion. Like, if it would end up just being nothing, no harm, no foul. Like, I just played a fun game in my head. No problem, right? Nobody lost anything. And then I followed it. And eventually, there was this one, kind of day where I told my now wife about what was going on. And the second we started talking about the subject matter, these different crazy hints started happening to both of us. Now, she couldn't be further from this world, both in terms of substances, and she's just like she's a researcher, she's a speech pathologist, she's like, for all intents and purposes, she's a puzzle solver. She's really good at that. And she's, she has a master's, so she kind of knows how things work in academia. Yeah. So this was not in her wheelhouse of thinking like this, right? But she knew enough about me to know that I'm not crazy, and if I'm saying something, there must be something behind it. But the second I told her this and we started talking about it, the things that I told her about, like certain things that would appear and things like this, it happened. There you go. It happened to both of us. And at that point, she went, "What?" And I said, "I told you." And she said, "That's crazy." So then we started going through this together, basically.
Okay.
And eventually that day, we together, through going through these like crazy rabbit holes online together, reached the conclusion that diffracted laser is supposed to do something. Now, there was a methodology to it to some degree, but it is actually a pretty boring one, because it's basically just, okay, what if whatever, and then we kind of search something. And then it was, so maybe it's, you just kind of go by this very strong hunch, and then you go to like a research paper about this thing, and then you read that. And I can retrace these steps, but they're not that interesting. It's just, I do have something in the works now where I'm kind of recapitulating all the steps that I really took to like get to this idea. But the truth is that, if I have to be honest, I think the majority of what we actually discover, you need to have the right state of being and state of mind for it. Like, you have to do the work for the prerequisite. Like, you have to have the proper knowledge. You have to kind of you can be a good receptor in that moment. Yeah. But we know this from history. The most brilliant ideas came to people just like oh, and then they just kind of knew it, right? Yeah. Now, obviously, it's people that already spent their lives, studying these things. Yeah. But it almost invariably always came to them in a moment that seems to be unrelated about thinking about it. And you can say, hey, which would be a legitimate assumption. They would say, well, this is how the mind works. You kind of try to calculate something, and then when you let it go, some portions of the brain come up with something, and it comes as a solution to you. No problem. What can also be the case is that this information is available, and you pick up on it.
In een wereld vol hectiek. Even een moment voor jezelf. Ga naar univibes.nl.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, how do you make...
That's true. I feel really that's true, because you also see that when people have an idea, then if you're not quick enough to actually go through with it, somebody else at the other side of the world will pick it up and do it, I mean, and
there were studies on this.
Yeah.
There were studies on this, that when certain ideas become available, kind of like morphic fields theory, right? Rupert Sheldrake, which is that when certain ideas, informational patterns become available, all of a sudden, a lot of different people in the world can also pick up on it, and they never spoke to one another. And this was before the internet, by the way, before any memes were running online. So now both propositions, one being that the brain, that's how it works, and the other one being that it's actual information external that you pick up on, they're both valid, but there must be a way to try and discern between those two.
Yeah.
And I would say that what we're trying to do in our little investigation and with what we call cognitive physics is essentially that, which is how do we decide which one is actually happening and to what degree? And is it true at all that there's like external space that is not just our minds? Because it takes a little bit of work for somebody who never considered it, but it's actually not that crazy to assume that maybe what the real substance of existence is isn't what we perceive as space-time, but mind.
Yeah.
Mind itself might be the fundamental thing, and then space-time is a construct within mind, not in the sense that we're imagining it, but if you think of mind as an actual material, like a substance, that also has this quality that it can coalesce into a unitary experience that people experience, like a person experience.
Yeah.
But there can be a lot of other states of consciousness that are not like this. They're not inwards pointing. They're just kind of diffused clouds of consciousness.
Like you're the antenna and the environment is like the broadcaster. And you
That-
just pick up on certain
So,
things.
so the idea that I'm talking about is more along the lines of idealism, which is the philosophical position that consciousness is fundamental.
Okay.
In the case of idealism, the proposition is a little bit more radical than what you just said. So this is there's this idea that we're just kind of receivers of, but that would be more panpsychism, which means that there's a physical universe and, quantum fields and everything. And within that, there's also some kind of a field responsible for information and consciousness.
Okay.
And when we pick up that information, we become conscious and we have ideas. So what I'm proposing is more radical than that. I'm saying that it's not that it's another thing in existence, is that existence as a whole is consciousness, which is a different idea, because there's nothing else but consciousness, basically.
Yeah.
But not in the same form as we. So like if people think, there's a really good conversation between Bernardo Kastrup and, well, Bernardo is good to listen to no matter when, but Bernardo Kastrup and Alex O'Connor. I think that's one of the best conversations. And they start this conversation by him asking Bernardo's like, what do you think this mic is made out of? And he says, consciousness. It's like, but that's exactly what you would expect. It's not like the mic possesses the same qualities of consciousness that you do, because you're a different arrangement of consciousness.
Yes.
But it is consciousness. It is the same kind of thing. And that it takes a little work. I realize that unless you thought about this for quite a while, it just sounds like, what are you even talking about?
No, I like the idea very much. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my impression is that something along those lines is in fact going on.
Okay. But what happened next? So you saw the code.
Yeah, when I saw the code, the first thing wasn't really, aside from actually going through the Rolodex of what can be happening here, because maybe I just there was a fleeting thought of like, maybe this is a schizophrenic outbreak, because I was in the beginning of my, what are the chances I made a discovery that nobody in humanity has ever made before?
Yeah.
Pretty low, right? Close to zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. So especially I'm not like some kind of I'm not like a virtuoso in some university somewhere. So then I thought, for a second I thought, okay, I'm in the beginning of my 30s. I don't know if you know this, but schizophrenia tend to break out at that age if you're prone to it. I have used a lot of psychedelics in my life, so that might be, And also, like, numbers were talking to me, like, not actually talking to me, but like I was finding meaning in all kinds of things, which is kind of like a tail end sign of things like this, psychosis or something. So then, but I felt normal. Like, it's not. I don't think it's quite true to say that crazy people don't know they're crazy. I don't think that's true. I think crazy people, a lot of them do know that something is off. I did speak to a few people with real schizophrenia, and they definitely know something is wrong.
What's happening?
And I didn't feel like that. Everything was normal for me. And also I never experienced anything without the psychedelics. But then I started showing other people. And then the second person saw it, my good friend Tim, I was like, you're shitting me. He's like, no, there's language in there. I go,
Jesus.
dude. And it was such a crazy. That was the crazy moment.
So
So
you
he's
saw
like,
it in the laser beam. You see like it's like actually like the Matrix then, right? I mean, you see
basically,
those
yeah.
codes coming. And do they also move like that?
They
or?
move, but not like in the Matrix. So they move along 3 different axes. They rotate around these what seems to be like buckyballs, like soccer balls.
Yeah.
And these soccer balls, they're all arranged in these columns, and these columns moving around also. And then each character in place, it also changes really quickly, like this. So it's like it's all happening at once. There's like millions of them. The thing to point out is that it's not. This is where it gets tricky, because it's the specifics of it that really convinces you. It's not like people do see code, by the way, in other ways. People email me all the time. They see code without the laser. They see code without the molecule. If they have like more spiritual abilities that they claim they have, like they would. I gotta change the thing because I was gonna keep doing it. The spiritual ability, they can see kind of codes. By the way, I'm not saying those codes are not real. That I think what people see is absolutely real. Very common. If somebody's listening and this is happening to you, know that this is very common. People say that sometimes they would wake up, and right when they would wake up for like a few seconds, they would like see like the code either in the back of their eyelids or like. So we know it's happening. Now, when you see it in the laser, though, because I've seen these other codes on walls and things like this without the laser, but when you do it with the laser, it makes it so clear. Like it's not, you can't mistake it. It's not like, am I seeing it, am I not seeing it? It's, you know how you're looking at a cloud, so periodelia, right? That you kind of would find a shape in it, right? Mm-hmm. So, but you know you're just making it up, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a gradation of this ability. So maybe something would happen and you're actually pretty convinced that you're seeing something, but then later you'll be like, oh, no, it wasn't that, right? So then, okay, now you weren't really sure. But there is a point when there's enough information where you can't even imagine how you would be imagining this. It's just like obviously, am I imagining my laptop right now? It's like, not very likely. Like, there's just too many things here, right? So, okay, so that's the kind of quality that the code has. It's hyper-specific. It's very clearly some kind of a meaning thing that is instantiated. I don't know if it's language. I don't know if it's code. We're just calling it the code of reality because it's fun to piss people off with this. But also, like we don't really know what it is, of course. No. But we know that it seems like language. Yeah. And you basically see it in some, like, so if I project the light, right? You see the light, right?
Yeah.
It's not on the surface. It's in some kind of a subspace right inside. When I move the light, what you're seeing isn't moving. So the light is moving across it. It's almost like a flashlight in the dark.
That's actually one of my questions. So is it like the laser exposes the code? Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like.
Yes, like you're shining with a how do you call it?
With a flashlight. With a flashlight, yeah.
So that means that actually the code is everywhere around us then.
Yeah, I think it's in every point in space, and when you just can't bounce the laser off the air. So like you come back from the wall. Now there's a lot of things to play with here. And by the way, just so people know, this is, at this point the project already went through a few iterations. So there are these new ideas about because some of the people who from the neuroscientific community who are studying psychedelics, one of their biggest contentions was, we know that people seek languages on psychedelics. We know that the brain is filled with, the ability to produce symbolic representations. And speckle, which is what you see when this shiny stuff when you project with the laser, is a perfect scaffolding for creating content because it's a random pattern. So you can basically, your brain can fill in the blank with whatever. Yeah. The funny thing is, they're not wrong, but by saying that, they're not really nullifying the hypothesis, because that still leaves a lot of room of questioning around why this language and no other language. Why these exact symbols that nobody speaks? It's not a language we know. No. Highly, highly specific.
Have you ever tried to decode it or not? Is it?
Yeah, well, a bunch of images of it.
Write it down. Yeah.
Well, that you won't be able to do so easily because there's just millions of them. They're tiny and they're moving all the time. So it's kind of hard. But people have done this. So we have representations of them. And at this point, when there's thousands of replications all over the world, if people Google veilbreak.ai, veilbreak, so veilbreak, one word, .ai, that's a repository we created thanks to our incredible software engineer Carmelo and my partner Carter, who initiated this and built this. It's basically like a GitHub for the laser experiment. So people, instead of emailing me about it, now they can fill in a report on the website, and it's available for everybody to see. So people can see like different experiments that people did with all the information, and people can do this, by the way, anonymously, because I do get the occasional email like, hey, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I've been seeing these things for a long time, this is crazy, I can't, things like this. But obviously they can't talk about it, they will lose their license immediately.
Yeah, of course.
So you can do this anonymously even. Now what needs to happen is that we did a lot of quick and dirty. In other words, we did a lot of like little tests that we kind of know what's kind of happening and what's not. Now it needs to go to like serious studies. So now we're building this research center, and hopefully we'll be able to jump started relatively quickly. And I think we'll have, the second we're going to be able to show up for work every day, like every morning, and have a coffee and have some ideas and then test them. I think working this way for a year would give us a pretty good yield. I think the real progress will happen around training some models to try and create a Rosetta Stone of people's brains while they're in state and without state, to see what is the signature while we're looking at somebody's EEG reading when they're looking at particular languages. This is an idea that immediately came from one of my very beloved and brilliant friends. He actually is from Spain, Tony Mullins. He's an absolute genius. I love this guy. But he basically said, "Is like, look, what you got to do is you got to train a model. If you want real science to look at this, train a model to look at the brain, identify the signature. If I see that signature in more than a few people, then you have news." And that's essentially what we're going to be trying and doing now.
And what kind of people are you working now with? Are those scientists?
We have a couple of physicists on the roster. We have software engineers. We have a cryptographer, brain scan expert. We have a philosopher, which I'm very happy about. Yeah, so slowly people, we have people from all over the world that are constantly chiming in. We have a material scientist, Nico. He's also the one that helped me write that paper that is now in the IPI letters. And also thank you to Melvin Vopson, who's the physicist whose journal this is that allowed this to be published. Yeah. There's way more open-minded scientists in the world than I realized. I wasn't really that surprised, but because I was kind of hoping that that's the case. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think people don't realize how open-minded scientists really are. It's just that a lot of them work within constraints of what where the next job is going to be. And if you say the wrong things, you might not find that job. But if you actually talk to them in person, they're by nature, they're very curious people, and they really want to understand. So we got very lucky. We got the attention of quite a few very serious and smart individuals around the world, and it's happening more every day. And if anything, my aim, because I am not an academic and I am not, in academia, which also to some degree is my freedom, because I can say whatever I want. I don't have a job security issue with that. No, it's like a real problem, by the way. Like, you say the wrong thing, you will lose your job. Like, you will simply not work.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, and my goal, I think, was, can I inspire the smartest people on the planet to look into this? Yeah, and it's happening. So that's
amazing.
Yeah.
What an amazing project to be working on, right? I mean, this could change like the whole understanding of the nature of reality. I mean,
and I think it will. But I don't necessarily think it's just what I do. I think this is already emerging in many different ways. Mm-hmm. I am now, even though I started from a very kind of scientific perspective, it's very clear to me that there's an enormous thing happening with our own abilities. And at first I was very iffy about this, but I'm seeing this now left and right. I meet people every day that show me that without a doubt, they can do things. There's have you heard of Tom Matte?
No.
So TOMMATTE. Highly recommend to look into this guy. He's a good friend of mine. If you ever want him on the podcast, I'll connect you guys. He has a pretty incredible story, and the short version of it is that he was into a lot of crazy things, drugs, things like this. But he also held a serious position as a advertisement exec and things like this. But he basically went through an episode of psychosis at some point. Okay. Found himself to be homeless, if I'm not mistaken, at some point. Wow. But when he got himself rehabilitated, I'm kind of shortening his story by a lot. But when he rehabilitated himself, he realized that from all these craziness, some ability stayed, and he now calls this ability upsight. And there was just a study by Ions done about him, so there was a research paper actually written about his ability. He seemed to be able to pull content, not like from the imagination. Like he can see it like, like a Tony Stark augmented reality, kind of like this. Yeah. Menus, things like this. So he can pull something similar, and you see it as clear as day. And they did a study about him with brain scans and everything. And now he evolved this ability. He can actually do readings for people. So like, and I know it sounds like, but like he literally said, if you talk to him, you'll see he's just like a completely normal guy. And he's like, no, I can see the content of what's around in your field, and I can tell you what it is. And I'm like, people are just blown away by what he's doing.
Oh my God, I need to speak to him. I
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'll connect you. Look, yeah, and so, but he's not alone. He himself told me that he meets a lot of other people that are, experiencing more and more of this, and people on different levels of emergence of this. And before we thought, okay, this is just, either crazy people or
some crazy dude.
Now we have enough tools to actually discern who's crazy and who's actually having certain kinds of abilities, right?
Yeah.
I think that we really do not quite understand the situation we find ourselves in.
No,
I think we found a whole new corner of investigation. The way that I see it is, if you kind of ask me my most extravagant idea of like what I think is going on. Now, I want to premise this. Yeah, I want to premise this by saying I don't know this to be for sure the case, but my intuition tells me that what's going on is that there's a certain. First of all, not only we're not alone, they are everywhere. It's just that.
You mean the beings that you have seen in your trips?
Aliens, like there's other, just like we are. I don't even want to call it beings. Just like we're people. There's other people. They're just not human people. Okay.
No.
And there's it's a whole, like, we're just blind basically. We just don't know how to look. So then now we're slowly getting to the level of the game where the tools to look become available. And when that starts happening, it's not like, would you try and stop another species' evolution? No, that's unethical. So if you're a species that is more advanced than another species, and you realize that until this moment, this species couldn't see you, but you could see it the whole time. So when all of a sudden you notice that species starts noticing you, first slowly, but then more and more, you have an ethical obligation to try and help them understand so they don't freak out, right? It's like you're about to find out you're not alone. I think that's what's happening. We're starting to gain these abilities because we're becoming more aware or waking up. Waking up to the larger reality, basically. I really think that's what's essentially going on.
And which that's is not also only when you're using DMT. That's also because people have encounters, of course.
Me so far, no. Like I could never do these things, but I know people. I know people for sure that can do very interesting things. That at least my current discernment of humans tells me they're not lying. They absolutely have these abilities.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Yeah.
But so do you think, so with discovering this code in the wall, like you said it the first time, with the code in the laser, do you think, what does it mean? I mean, are we living in a simulation?
So again, this is where we have to make a distinction between, do I think that the code in the wall is enough to say that? No. But if you ask me, Danny, personally, with everything that I've experienced and interacted with, and I was shown directly, yes. We are living in a computational world, essentially. But the thing to add is that there is nothing else. All of it is computational. So what it is computational at bottom. It's mind operating by computational rules.
Yeah.
And what we experience as the physical world, our universe, is essentially one subset of a much larger computational space. What we experience as the laws of physics at bottom are rendered by quantum computational rules that give rise to also other kinds of universes with other laws of physics, with all kinds of things. So the multiverse essentially is working on quantum computational rules, and we are a tiny subset of it, but we are now becoming aware of the space from which, from that vantage point, we can actually see a lot of other real beings or people, whatever you want to call them, that live in other sectors of this space.
Yeah.
But I am adding the component of saying, no, it is also the case that actually there's a higher civilization rendering our universe. So like straight up running it on their hard drives, basically, on their. But it's not in the same way that we imagine it. It's not like it's inside of some kind of a mega computer.
No.
Is that the quality of existence is computational, so you can bend it to your will, just in the same way that you can bend the laws of physics if you understand them. The more the laws of physics you understand, magnetism, thrust, everything, you can do more things, right? You can go to space all of a sudden. You can do all kinds of things. If you understand the rules of universal quantum computation, you can do things. You can use that fabric to do things. So you can simulate other worlds, like entire worlds, basically, by utilizing that quality. So that's the way that I'm seeing the structure unfolding.
And do you think that this is something that that is gonna happen in the near future? That we're really going to figure it out?
You and I will see the day, I believe, yes.
And also that we will be able to use it that way, that we could do it ourselves?
One would hope.
Yeah.
I think that what happens is essentially that the second you become aware of this, you enter a new family of knowing, of kind of universal knowing. That isn't necessarily a secret, but it is an ontological shock. So in order for a civilization to go through the process of really coming to terms with it and then assimilating that understanding, they also have to occupy a certain state of level of awareness. This part already sounds a lot more like kind of spiritual talk than scientific talk, of course. But if it is the case, it is the case. So my impression of what's happening is that humans are just like, again, this is already going to sound like super just kind of spiritual talk, but we oscillate at a particular frequency, which makes certain patterns of information available. And on this frequency, you can see this content this way. If you go to higher frequencies, you start to see the same thing from a higher vantage point. You see more of what it is, but you also see more possibilities in it. And the second you start doing that, you start discovering that A, you're not alone. B, there's way more you can do with the same thing that previously you saw, but maybe you just didn't know what to do with it. You can think of it in terms of frequency. You can think of it in terms of complexity of information and how much you can retain. So one maybe helpful example, it's not exactly what's happening, but this would be a helpful heuristic. If you have a laptop open and you have a bunch of code, like actual computer code, like somebody wrote, right?
Yeah.
And you put a dog in front of it. The dog is like, the dog doesn't even know that there's anything to look at, right? There's just an object. This object is shiny, but the dog can't eat it, so whatever. You put a monkey or a primate in front of it. Not any primate, but like a definitely somewhere in the ape family, right?
Yeah.
They won't know what to do with the code for sure, but they see that there's something. I'm sure they see there's something different about like what this is. They wouldn't be able to figure it out, of course. If for no other reason, they don't have the dexterity in their fingers, the level of control, right?
Yeah.
But also probably the understanding. But here's the interesting part. Even a human who is not a software engineer, they know what this is because they've been told, they've seen it before, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't speak the language. So you see how there's these levels that kind of prevent you from interacting with that information.
Yeah.
But if you have the proper knowledge, you're a software engineer, you know like what the logic, the languages, you can actually do something with it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like the second you start becoming aware of certain things, it's not enough. You also need to be able to contain what it is in such a way that you can actually do something with it. And that's the place where I think how the real evolution happens, basically.
Yeah. What did you not expect to happen? Except for seeing the code, of course, in the end.
It's a good question. I think I didn't expect it to lead to a perspective that would sound more like what I just said. Like I would expect it to just kind of be like, here's some tools, here's what you can do with it. You can either figure it out or you can't. I actually didn't expect that it would involve the evolution of humans as part of the story. That was not clear to me at all. And I'm now convinced of this without a doubt. That what humans are and how we are would determine whether we fully enter that space or maybe not allowed to enter that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did it change your life? I mean, knowing everything that you're knowing and everything that you have experienced and seen, has it changed the way you look at reality? I mean, of course, because you know it's different than you thought. But I mean, how does it affect you in your daily life?
Funny enough, it connected me more to the simple things.
Yeah.
Because when you start seeing the scale of what's going on, then all of a sudden appreciating your little corner of the universe becomes a lot more, seems a lot more important. Like actually enjoying the, just a fresh breeze of air, or just like sitting with your family, or like all of these things that sound so chewed up, but like it's true. Like if you can't enjoy that, and by the way, when you can enjoy that, then all of a sudden all the more crazy things become also more fun, because now you know that you can actually be present with these things in a way that you couldn't before. So the emphasis on the present moment became much more salient to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Has your wife ever done it? Because she said she wasn't into this stuff, but has she ever tried it?
She saw the code, and yeah.
And then I just want to ask you about the DMT, because we started with it, the fact that what I knew about it is that it's so hard to smoke it, or do you think that's
right?
That's not true?
So not anymore. It used to be the case, because it's like smoking glass. The crystals, if you try to smoke, it's like literally like inhaling glass. So your husband did it in the old days, I guess.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, no, now it's like it comes in like where it's legal, of course. It just comes in like a vape pen, just like you can just vape it.
That was my question too, because I didn't know it was legal, but it is now. So you can just.
Well, in some places, yeah. Colorado just decriminalized it. Canada, it's kind of like this. So it's all gray area, right? Like you won't get in trouble for it, but it's not fully legal. Okay, but so like, but in Canada they ship it openly. Like you can order it from a store online, and it will ship it to your house.
But that must have been like an expensive hobby for you then that year.
Oh, for sure. Luckily, I was making good money, but
Really?
I also befriended the right people.
Yeah. Oh, that is so funny. But so can everybody smoke it, or are there risks to it? Because now I'm intrigued. Really.
Only as famously Terence McKenna was one of the most famous names associated with psychedelics, said, only if you're afraid of death by astonishment.
Okay. Well, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's you don't get truly amazed in life a lot. This will amaze you, actually, in the real sense of the word. Okay. And no, there's zero physical dangers. It doesn't mean that I think everybody should go and smoke it. DMT can be very, depending on your degree of tolerance to novelty, I would assess there. If you like weird and wild, absolutely you should know what's going on. If you think that you like your little corner of the universe the way it is, maybe not for you. Not everybody gets to go and be an astronaut, not just because they didn't get the job. Some people are not built for certain things. And some people should absolutely stay away from this, because it does get in the face of something that you thought you had a hang on, and it can throw all of that out the window.
Oh, I would love that, but I just want to know if it's not something that you can stay in, like a psychosis that happens.
Not with DMT, no. I would say that now I haven't looked at like all the meta-analyses ever done on it, but from my experience and also from what I believe is the current available data, DMT is just too short. Okay. To cause psychosis. So like I would say that even in the cases where people claim that there was some interactions with DMT and psychosis, I think there were other things involved. Weed is usually a pretty big offender in that regard. Actually, people don't know this, but weed is one of the biggest reasons for people's psychotic outbreaks. LSD, definitely. Mushrooms can do it. DMT is too short. It's like 5 minutes of the craziest thing you've ever experienced, but it's 5 minutes.
Does it feel like 5 minutes, or does it feel like 5 hours?
Some people do report time dilation where they feel it was like eternal or something. I've never experienced it, so I don't know. I don't know if people get confused and they just don't really recall. It's kind of hard to say. But again, if you ever decide to actually do it, obviously you would want to consider the right set and setting, your state of being. It definitely plays a role. Like you want everything to be, just so.
We should write a script for people to do it.
We have a protocol.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, you have a protocol. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Oh, and we can find this on your website.
In the new website, there will be links to it. Yeah.
Okay, and where can people find more information about you right now?
Me personally is just dannygoler.com. All my links are there. My YouTube channel is Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts. And the new website that will be operational in the moment will be codeofreality.org. And currently we have the old website, codeofreality.com, operating, but we'll also revamp that one because it's no longer on par with where we are now. So we'll have to update that one as well. Thank you, Laszlo, for being our incredible web developer. I truly am blessed with how many very talented people. Laszlo is he's an award-winning game developer and a VR expert, and he's just because currently we can't build these bigger things. He just helped us to do a website. So we're constantly blessed with these incredibly talented people who are willing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So
those are the main places: dannygoler.com, Dango Thoughts, and codeofreality.org, but also com.
Yeah. Super.
One thing I will encourage people to go to the veilbreak.ai if they want to see other people's experiments, and if they want to leave their own experiment, they can also do it completely anonymously.
Yeah.
Oh, and the final thing I will say is that we finally started doing these retreats because people asked me for a long time to do these, and I just never found the time, or just felt like I didn't really know what I'm going to do there. But we finally created a really beautiful program for people to come and partake in. So if people want to find out about that, they can go to...
Where is that, the retreat?
Currently it's in Costa Rica, but we'll be doing other ones as well. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's called coreretreat.com. So COR retreat.com without the E, basically. Core without the E.
Yeah. Okay.
And people can find out more about it there.
You see me there.
Let's go.
Let's go. Well, thank you so much, Danny. I mean, I'm super intrigued. I mean, it's amazing what you're doing, and I will follow you for sure because I can't wait to see what's going to happen and how this is going to unfold. And I'm super happy that we spoke today. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mirjam. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. If you also found this information valuable, then please make sure to subscribe to our channel, share this episode with someone who might benefit from it, and help us spread this message. If you're looking for deeper inspiration, growth, and connection, you can also join our new Univibes app and grow together with us. See you next time.